that I am going to throw it now to Chris Matthews on Hardball. Go get him, Chris.
Thanks, Phil. Tonight on Hardball, Senator John Kerry, Senator Mitch McConnell, and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres on Iraq's offer to admit inspectors. Is it enough to prevent a war? First, it's the top of the hour. Time for a look at the latest news.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeannie. Here's what's happening right now. Possible setback for President Bush's plan to have the UN force Saddam Hussein to disarm. The Russians, who can veto any Security Council resolution, say renewed weapons inspections are enough for now, and they want to wait 6 months for the inspectors' first report. But in Washington, Congress isn't waiting. Today, Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle says debate won't be derailed by Saddam's latest offer. Daschle now expects a vote before the November elections on a resolution backing presidential action on Iraq. 6 terror suspects arrested for being part of an alleged al-Qaeda terror cell in Buffalo due in court tomorrow for a bail hearing. The FBI still looking for 2 others who may be overseas. Janet Reno conceding the Florida Democratic nomination for governor late today. Reno giving up after final counts show her losing by 4,800 votes. Tampa lawyer Bill McBride goes on to face Republican incumbent Jeb Bush. And a sweet announcement for folks in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The candy giant no longer on the market. Board members of the charitable trust which controls Hershey Foods say they are rejecting all bids for the nation's largest candy maker. The trustees meeting tonight asked the company to end the process of exploring the sale. We'll have the latest news live every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, plus breaking news when it happens. You're watching America's news channel, MSNBC. Hardball is coming right up.
I'm Chris Matthews. Let's play Hardball. The big story in a moment. The world weighs the return of inspectors to Iraq. Can Saddam Hussein outflank President Bush and prevent a U.S. attack? Senator John Kerry joins us. Senator Mitch McConnell and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres all going to be here tonight on Hardball. Plus, tomorrow the Hardball College Tour kicks off at the University of Minnesota. We'll be there with Governor Jesse Ventura. Tonight, the Hardball debate. As Ventura prepares to step down, will a third party ever be a significant force in American politics? First, will UN weapons inspectors return to Iraq? And will that prevent a war with the United States? Iraq offered to admit the inspectors without conditions yesterday, an offer the Bush administration was quick to refuse. Arguing the issue is disarmament, not inspections, today Bush continued his call for tough action against Saddam Hussein.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again. This is a man who has delayed, denied, deceived the world. For the sake of liberty and justice for all, the United Nations Security Council must act in a way to hold this regime to account. Must not be fooled.
This afternoon, Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle, he's a Democrat, said Congress will vote on an Iraq resolution before this coming November elections. In a moment, we'll be joined by Senator Mitch McConnell, a Republican, and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres. First, Senator John Kerry. Senator Kerry, are you willing to vote against a resolution for war with Iraq?
It depends on the circumstances. I'm perfectly prepared to vote for a resolution that holds Saddam Hussein accountable. I'm prepared to use force. I'm prepared to support the president in his effort to have the United Nations Security Council hold him accountable, and I look forward to doing that. I think the president is correct that you don't just rely on a letter, you don't rely on his saying he's going to do what he's going to do and put it at that. I think the Security Council of the United Nations has to act. That is consistent, Chris, with what I and others looked for in 1998 when we had a similar confrontation with Saddam Hussein. We need to hold him accountable, and we're prepared to do it.
Suppose this runs the course, however, Senator, and you've been watching it better than I have. Suppose the UN Security Council, its permanent membership, the Big Five from World War II, are satisfied, except for us and perhaps England, are satisfied with the inspections regime that Kofi Annan works out with Saddam Hussein, and we're not satisfied with it. What happens then?
Well, first of all, I don't think that Secretary General Kofi Annan views it as his sole prerogative, I hope he doesn't, to work out his own arrangement. This has to be in consultation with the United States and with our allies. And we clearly have some very high standards that have to be applied to this. I wrote in an op-ed piece in the New York Times over a week ago that these have to be no-nonsense, spot inspection, no conditions at all. We define what these inspections will be like because the inspections are critical to the destruction of the weapons. And indeed, the destruction of the weapons is part of the ceasefire agreement that Saddam Hussein signed in 1991. And that's the only reason he's in power today. So I think we should hold him accountable to the destruction. But I do believe that what we're seeing here represents an initial indication that it made sense to go to the United Nations and to look for the cooperation of our allies. And I'm glad the president finally decided to do what so many people urged him to do.
Is there a reasonable hope, Senator Kerry, that Saddam Hussein will permit unfettered inspections?
I rather doubt it, but that doesn't matter. That's not the issue here. The issue here is going through a legitimate process that empowers the United States to act with the greatest amount of international support and with the greatest understanding of the American people. If you make that effort, and once again he miscalculates, he will have in fact underscored himself the very argument for removing him, and I think we have greater justification to take action.
Let me ask you a really tough question, because I'm not sure anybody is. It's a fair question. Well, this is not maybe a fair question, because I don't want to establish any kind of moral equality or any kind of equivalence in this issue. But do you trust the White House to present to the United Nations Security Council a reasonable resolution? In other words, not to throw in language beyond the issue of arms, especially weapons of mass destruction, for them to throw in language that says this government must become a democracy, that it must end its repression of its people and establish human rights. Are you confident that this White House won't try that attack to raise the bar?
Chris, at some point, they obviously reserve the right to take actions that they deem fit to protect the security interests of our country. But for the moment, it's my judgment that Secretary Powell, the President, and his advisors are trying to proceed in a way that genuinely brings support on board. I think if they go that route, if they try to throw every single possible resolution or complicated scenario into this, they're going to make it very difficult for some of those countries who might be with us to be with us. I think the first step is to do the arms and do the weapons of mass destruction. That's the most immediate threat to the United States of America. But the President, as I also wrote in that article, always reserves the right to act to unilaterally protect the interest of our country.
Do you think the United States should resolutely oppose a process whereby you have a series of resolutions before the Security Council, some resolutions at the outset saying that the Saddam Hussein regime should permit inspections, and then let those resolutions carry effect for, say, 6 weeks to see if they actually comply or not, and then, and only then, the UN Security Council meets again and considers a resolution to sanction, in other words, to call for war with Iraq? Would you accept such a plan?
I think it would make much more sense and be much stronger for the Security Council to pass a resolution immediately, similar to the one that we passed previously, where they empower the inspections themselves, but they also empower the member nations to be able to take such means as necessary to enforce them. I think that's the only way you really have strength in the inspection process itself. That's the only way you have a prayer of making what is already a very difficult task anything near a reality.
Last night before 6 o'clock, we had not heard anything from the Iraqi foreign minister. Since then, we've gotten a letter from the foreign minister calling for, in fact, offering up the inspections regime in that country. Are we better off, let me put it this way, more acutely, are we closer to peace or closer to war since last night at 6 o'clock?
I think we're closer to the possibility of peace. I wouldn't say we're closer to it until we know what kind of inspection regime can really be put in place and whether or not it satisfies our needs. What we had last night was sort of an indicator, a leading indicator, but it is certainly not yet at all sufficient to satisfy our needs, nor the needs of the Security Council if they're going to be serious. Saddam Hussein obviously can't be trusted. This is not something where you proceed on the basis of a letter. Right. And I think we have to have extraordinary intrusion in these inspections. And it's not just inspections. It's the capacity to be able to destroy what we find, what we know he has, and that's what we have to do.
Senator John Kerry, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Up next, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell on the president's response to Saddam's offer. And coming also on this program tonight, Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres. And later, the Hardball debate tonight on the eve of my college tour kickoff with Governor Jesse Ventura out in Minnesota. Can a third party be a major force in American politics? You're watching Hardball.
Okay, sir, here's your Avis care package with local information, traffic rules, and a map.
What would it be like if Avis didn't try harder?
Did Brad ask about me? Well,
Give a map.
I gave you a map.
No, you didn't. I never.
Yes, I did. There's no way that I was remembering to check
I never got a.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Can I have another map?
No.
Okay. If we didn't try harder, we wouldn't be Avis. The Avis Care Package. Thanks. Give us a call.
Body pain? Back pain? Introducing new Bare Back and Body. It's Bare Aspirin plus a special pain relief enhancer to relieve sore backs and soothe aching muscles fast. New Bare Back and Body. Get moving again pain-free.
For the scorching pain of heartburn from acid reflux, get the difference of Gaviscon. It quickly forms a soothing, protective barrier that helps keep acid down for hours. Feel the soothing power of Gaviscon.
Every day, a bell rings. The city awakes. A workday begins. A market opens. The world gets down to business, all because every day a bell rings. Let freedom ring.
Every Wednesday at 9, Chris Matthews is hitting colleges across the U.S. No lectures, no papers, no BS, just hardball. First stop, the University of Minnesota with Jesse Ventura.
How do you talk so fast?
The Hardball College Tour, premiering Wednesday at 9 on America's news channel, MSNBC.
September, AT&T Broadband delivers the hits you want on in-demand pay-per-view. Don't miss Kevin Costner in the stirring drama Dragonfly. Tune in and see the critically acclaimed and loved Amelie. Catch Britney Spears in her hit movie Crossroads. And catch all the back-to-school laughs in The New Guy. Call AT&T Broadband now and order in a great movie tonight on in-demand pay-per-view.
America is shaping up with Fitness Made Simple's best-selling workout and nutrition videos, hosted by fitness celebrity John Bastow.
These videos don't offer starvation diets, miracle pills, or magical fat loss belts. Those things never work for me or anyone else I know. What does work are the muscle-building workouts and fat-burning nutrition plans shown on these tapes.
Order our National Shape Up Special today and get the original Fitness Made Simple workout and nutrition video, plus six-pack abs. That's 2 videos for the price of 1. Call now.
Senator Mitch McConnell's a Kentucky Republican. Senator McConnell, the Iraqis are saying no matter what they do, we're going in. It seems like this administration, the Bush administration, is making it look good for them because it seems like we're saying no matter what you say you're going to do, we're going in.
Well, what this is about, of course, is weapons of mass destruction and the willingness to use them. Saddam Hussein has used them twice already against the Iranians and against his own people, and I think there's no question what the president's policy is and what I think Congress will endorse on a largely bipartisan basis, which is regime change.
Well, that's the question I want to get to. Why should Iraq, whoever runs Iraq, whoever takes over Iraq, anybody in the Ba'athist Party, why should anybody cut a deal with us if we've already said we're going in and killing them all?
Well, if they're willing to get rid of their weapons of mass destruction under our supervision throughout the country, maybe there's an outside chance this guy can survive. But this is about weapons of mass destruction.
Well, what about inspections? What about the United Nations inspection team going back in there? Why is that insufficient?
Well, because inspecting is not getting rid of. He had an obligation under UN terms that he accepted 10 years ago to get rid of.
Well, if we
weapons of
find
mass
them, it seems
destruction.
to me kind of assumption, a reasonable assumption that we will then proceed to get rid of them.
Well, we need to have totally intrusive inspection throughout the country without notice and the ability to destroy those weapons of mass destruction. That's about the only way I can think of that he might be able to save himself. I think without weapons of mass destruction, there will be a regime change because that's the only way he can stay in power.
Well, how would you define a successful inspection program or a successful U.S. intervention? If we went in there, would you say we'd have to go in there in strength to inspect and destroy weapons?
We need to have a set of inspectors that we have confidence in, ourselves, United States, with the ability to scour the country, to go anywhere we want to go without notice, and then to destroy those weapons, to supervise the destruction of them. We want to make sure that Iraq is free of weapons of mass destruction.
And if Saddam Hussein were willing to permit that, would we still continue this war drumbeat?
I think if we're absolutely confident that the weapons of mass destruction are gone, he might be able to survive in that environment. That's the threat to us, the weapons of mass destruction, and the fact that this particular individual has used them twice in the past against the Iranians, against his own people. We know that he will use them, so we need to make sure he doesn't have them. My guess is that without weapons of mass destruction, there will be a regime change in Iraq anyway, because he won't be able to stay in power without his ability to threaten not only his neighbors, but his own people.
The latest Newsweek poll says that 8 out of 10 Americans believe there'll be more terrorism if we go into Iraq. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of the war on terrorism if our actions cause more terrorism?
Well, I believe that that poll may well be accurate, but I don't think that's the way you prevent terrorism, is by failure to act and by cowering to people who have weapons of mass destruction. The way you prevent that sort of thing is something similar to what we've done in Afghanistan, which has prevented additional attacks, at least so far, on the United States by proaction, by proactively going out, seeking out places where there are weapons of mass destruction and getting rid of them.
Would
That
you
is the only way to prevent it.
consider a successful campaign into Iraq one which leveled that government, allowed us to pick the successor, at least in the short term, but which aroused so much anger in the Arab and Islamic world that we were faced with far more terrorism like the one we got on September 11th? Would you consider that a successful campaign?
Well, if you recall, those were the same things that people suggested were going to happen if we went into Afghanistan. Nothing happened. There was no regimes fell. There was no uprising in the streets, and the Afghan people are now in the process of trying to put together, with our assistance and the assistance of our allies, a government they can be proud of. And little girls are back in school, and they're not running around in constant terror now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the scenario that can work anywhere in the world, and certainly in Iraq, a place with plenty of well-educated middle-class people who I cannot believe, if given a chance to be rid of this guy, won't be excited to have that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. Up next, Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres on the world's reaction to Saddam's diplomatic bid to avert war and the Hardball debate. Tomorrow, the Hardball College Tour goes to Minnesota. Tonight, do independent politicians have a future in American politics? You're watching Hardball.
Gotta stop right there. Good girl.
Today, I'm giving my daughter her first driving lesson. I'm Howard Simpson, auto insurance expert for Liberty Mutual. Teenagers are more likely to have an accident than anyone else. That's why I volunteer to teach kids road safety long before they get their license.
Let's go, let's go.
Whether it's teaching kids in high school or training professionals, we do whatever it takes to make roads safer.
Liberty Mutual. It's more than insurance. It's insurance in action.
You're never too old to learn.
In an environment where the only constant is change, your business has to continually reinvent itself. Wouldn't it be nice if your infrastructure could do the same? It can, with ProLiant server technologies from HP, powered by Intel Xeon processors. Reliable, scalable, manageable, and built on industry standards. So your infrastructure can adapt to change just as quickly as you do.
Introducing Introducing Suzuki 00 and 7 event, featuring America's #1 value plan. It's America's #1 finance offer and America's #1 warranty. 0% APR financing for 5 full years with 0 down payment on all new Suzuki models. And now, all new Suzukis come with a 100,000-mile 7-year powertrain limited warranty, like the XL7 with available third-row seating and the 145-horsepower Aereo, now available with the confidence of all-wheel drive. The smart choice is America's #1 value plan, so move fast to your local Suzuki dealer today.
It's on. The Priceline.com supercomputer is on. Crunching the numbers, working the angles, calculating, analyzing, processing. See what everyone else is claiming the best deals are for airfare, hotel rooms, and rental cars. Then let the name-your-own-price technology bag you the best price. Yours.
Price accepted.
It's done it again. The Priceline.com supercomputer, a marvel of online travel technology.
I think, therefore I say.
Post-shredded wheat is rich in whole grain and can help reduce your risk of heart disease. So it sounds as good to your ears as it does to your taste buds.
Bird, it's a woodpecker. You think you'll eat a cashew?
No, woodpeckers don't like nuts.
Everyone loves Planters nuts. Fresh roasted taste, and they're cholesterol-free. Nice. Planters, relax, go nuts.
You know the symptoms. No matter what you do, the heartburn keeps coming back.
The burn can stop you in your tracks.
You worry about the risk of long-term problems.
I got help. Learn to handle the disease and the risks in ways that make sense for me.
Call this number now for information and a free kit from Prevacid, a handbook on managing acid reflux disease and its risks, a risk alert profiler, a guide to making the most of your next doctor visit, and a 7-day free trial certificate to use if your doctor decides Prevacid is right for you. Prevacid fights acid reflux disease 3 ways. It beats the burn, helps heal the damage, and best of all, staying on Prevacid if prescribed can stop the damage from coming back. Prevacid has a low occurrence of side effects such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. So if you want the power to manage the risks, heal the damage, and stay healed, call now for your free kit.
So I called Don Imus. He took my phone call, believe it or not.
Shimon Peres is Israel's foreign minister. He speaks to the United Nations tomorrow. He's in New York tonight. Mr. Peres, I have to ask you, do you think it's reasonable to expect that Saddam Hussein will allow unfettered inspections of his country?
I think that the record shows that Saddam Hussein is not a worthwhile person, that you cannot trust his signature. And I think the danger will not disappear by him giving a document that it is very doubtful if he will really respect.
Should the United States continue negotiations through the United Nations to get him to agree to full inspections, or is it a waste of time?
I think yes, on the conditions the United States has made known, because there is a difference, I think, between the declared position and the real position of some members in the United Nations. I don't know anybody who is in love or that respect or that trust the words and promises of Saddam Hussein. It's a pain in the neck of peace. And I think that nobody will regret if Iraq will be freed from this dictator who was so cruel and has initiated already 2 wars.
Do you have any confidence that the world community, by that I mean the permanent members of the Security Council and the UN, France especially, will stand up against Saddam Hussein and demand full inspections or else war?
I do believe that in spite of the impression, the French leadership is today trying really to meet the American position as much as they can. And I wouldn't let the France to go a different way, because as the United States, so is France deeply interested to see a Middle East which is not full with nuclear bombs, but can really move toward a full peace.
You know, one of the odd things in American public opinion today is the belief that we should go to war if necessary with Saddam Hussein. At the same time, people believe that he will use his chemical and biological and whatever other weapons of mass destruction he has to defend himself if we do attack him. And of course, you being in the region, Israel is very much vulnerable to such an attack. Do you think that Saddam Hussein will in fact attack other countries, including ours and yours, if we attack him?
To start with, I don't think the purpose is war or the purpose is control. The purpose is to prevent Saddam Hussein from having nuclear bombs in addition to the non-conventional hits he has already in the domain of biology and chemistry. The man is able to do the unexpected, but it will be this time very difficult for him because he declared that he doesn't possess any mass destruction weapons. And if he will use him, he will show he will call the bluff.
Well, do you think the United States should operate under the assumption that we will be facing nuclear, chemical, and chemical, biological, and possibly nuclear weapons if we go in there?
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think that he has already nuclear bombs. I believe he does have biological and chemical warheads. And I don't think that everybody will sit and wait until he will deliver them to any other target.
Okay, thank you very much, Foreign Minister Shimon Peres of Israel. Up next, the hardball debate. Can a third party ever become a viable option in America's political system, or are two major parties enough? The debate's coming up. And just a reminder, the Hardball College Tour starts tomorrow with a third-party success story. Governor Jesse Ventura of Minnesota. That's tomorrow at 9 Eastern, right here on Hardball. And this weekend, join me for the first broadcast of The Chris Matthews Show. We're going to tell you what's really happening, why it's happening, and what it means to you. That's this weekend. Check your local listings.
Thanks. Come back again.
Here we go. Get the action going.
About time you got a new TV.
Don't even start with me.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Folding seats, loads of space. If you love it, Chrysler T3 Cruisers got a way to hold it.
It's gonna fit.
Is it hot in here?
It's a steam room. And once again, you veered off course. A doctor's illegible handwriting causes the warehouse to ship otoscopes instead of stethoscopes.
That'll cause a misdiagnosis.
Or a really weird chest exam. But the doctor logs on to FedEx Insight, spots the order disorder while it's still en route. She has the right parts reshipped stat, and a potential shipping shenanigan gets a FedEx inoculation.
I thought a shenanigan was a good thing.
No, that's a hullabaloo.
Kind of like a brouhaha?
Sure.
For powerful digital imaging systems that are race car fast and handle so well they can pump out up to 105 pages a minute. Think inside the box. Think Savin.
Their parents all have great jobs, live in the same neighborhood, same cars, same vacations. So why will some families be paying for college while the rest are praying for scholarships? Some people already know our financial representatives excel at a lot more than life insurance. Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. Are you there yet?
May your travels bring you serenity, satisfaction. Like when you book ahead, ask for the daylight savings rate and save 25% on your days in room. It's like getting the bathroom free. All you need is the inspiration to book now.
Every Wednesday at 9, Chris Matthews is hitting colleges across the U.S. No lectures, no papers, no BS, just hardball. First stop, the University of Minnesota with Jesse Ventura.
How do you talk so fast?
The Hardball College Tour, premiering Wednesday at 9 on America's news channel, MSNBC.
From the home front to the front lines, for complete, continuing coverage of America's showdown with Saddam, turn to America's fiercely independent news channel, MSNBC.
If your passion is coffee, your pleasure will be Javalia. You won't find Javalia on any corner, yet it's within arm's reach. Call 1-800-299-7017 and we'll deliver 2 boxes of our exquisite European coffee for just $14.95. And now you'll receive our exclusive thermal carafe coffee maker, free. If you enjoy Javalia, we'll send you more, automatically. Call 1-800-299-7017.
AT&T Broadband.
Digital cable.
Speed Channel presents the most comprehensive motorsports news show on television, Speed News.
Our mission, keep you up to date with more inside stories, more live reports, and more information from around the world of motorsports.
Speed News is your one-stop for all your motorsports news. No one gets you closer.
Upgrade to AT&T Digital Cable today and keep up with Speed News. Saturdays and Sundays on the Speed Channel.
Power and Hardball. Jesse Ventura is calling it quits in Minnesota. Can third parties succeed in America's political system? And later, the real deal on whether Hillary Clinton is planning to run for the presidency. But first, it's time for a look at the latest news.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Ohm. Here's what's happening right now. The UN moves quickly tonight to get weapons inspectors back into Iraq now that Baghdad has given the green light. Iraqi officials meeting with inspectors in 10 days to finalize plans. President Bush, meantime, urges the UN not to be fooled. The White House saying it's not about inspections, it's about disarmament. 110 airport workers rounded up in Denver, indicted for lying or using false documents to get security badges. Denver International now the 19th airport targeted in a security crackdown ever since 9/11. 18 new cases of West Nile in Illinois. That state hit harder than any other, with 21 deaths in the 399 cases reported there so far. In Massachusetts, the first 2 deaths from the mosquito-borne virus, both elderly residents. And Colorado now with its first human case. We'll have another live update at the top of the hour. Now for more Hardball.
Every Wednesday, starting tomorrow, the Hardball College Tour comes to a campus near you. And tomorrow, I'll be at the University of Minnesota, along with Governor Jesse Ventura and about 4,000 students. Governor Ventura was elected 4 years ago as a Reform Party candidate, but he's since become an independent, and he's not running for a second term. In tonight's Hardball debate, can third parties succeed in America's political system? Here's Hardball correspondent David Schuster.
We hear reporters say, well, since you can't win, aren't you worried about taking votes from Al Gore? And I say to them, gee, I stay up at night sleepless, worrying about taking...
In recent American elections, sometimes the candidate who comes in last determines the one who finishes first. In 2000, the Green Party's Ralph Nader pulled in 97,000 votes in Florida, just enough to cost Al Gore the tightest presidential race in U.S. history and hand the election to George W. Bush. In 1992, it was Ross Perot who played presidential spoiler. The Reform Party candidate received 20 million votes nationwide, hurting Bush 41 in several key southern states and guaranteeing the election of Bill Clinton.
If you're going to run third party now, what you got to realize is you're probably going to take down to defeat the party that's closest to you. And you're probably going to get victory to the other side.
Buchanan and others point out the two main parties have maintained a system of financial and organizational hurdles that virtually lock out everybody else in the race for president. In addition, much of the third party's recent agenda has been made irrelevant by the march of time. Campaign finance reform, Perot's biggest issue, was taken care of by Maverick Senators John McCain and Russ Feingold. And years of surpluses and balanced budgets in the Clinton administration took the steam out of independent calls for fiscal responsibility. Still, third parties continue to do well at the state level.
The duties of the office of governor.
Polls show Tim Penny, Jesse Ventura's heir apparent in Minnesota, is ahead of the Democratic and Republican candidates in the race for governor. In Maine, Angus King, an independent, is finishing his second term as governor with a record of policy success. And who could forget Senator Jim Jeffords, widely praised in Vermont for going from Republican to independent, a move that gave Democrats control of the Senate chamber.
When people feel that the two-party system is working well, third parties are obviously in the background. But at moments when people feel like the two-party system is failing, third parties have a big opportunity.
And analysts say the potential is growing, given that more than 40% of voters now refuse to identify themselves as either Democrats or Republicans. So the question is, can third parties be a significant factor in national politics, or are they just a freakish sideshow representing only a disaffected fringe? I'm David Schuster for Hardball in Washington.
Tim Penny is running for governor of Minnesota on the Independence Party ticket. Jerry Brown is the mayor of Oakland. He was elected as an independent. And Alan Lichtman is a very independent-minded history professor at American University. Place Jesse Ventura in American history. We're going to be with him tomorrow night in Minnesota.
Look, third parties have always been with us ever since the anti-Masons in the early 1800s. Typically, when they become major parties, they replace the second party, the weakest. That hasn't happened, though, since the 1850s when the Whigs were taken over by the Republicans. But what third parties have done is they brought issues to the fore, like prohibition, like Social Security, more recently the Libertarians with vouchers. What Ventura represents, though, is the politics of personality, where third parties
I wonder, let's go to
tied
Congressman Tim Penny. You're
issues.
former Congressman Tim Penny. You're running ahead in the polls for governor of Minnesota. Is there a trend in your state towards the independents' approach to politics, to the governor's chair?
Well, there's been a long trend in Minnesota. Prior to my candidacy, we, of course, had the election of Jesse Ventura. Prior to that, we had an independent Republican serving as our governor who could not get the party endorsement from his own political party. And prior to that, we had a very independent maverick Democrat serving. So, and this was one of the states that gave its biggest vote totals to Ross Perot. So there's really something out here in Minnesota and probably in Maine as well that says to the American public that, at least in these states, there's a very strong interest in something other than the two major parties.
Jerry Brown out in Oakland, California, you're elected as an independent. Do you think there's a trend here? It only seems to be at the governor's level in Minnesota and Maine so far.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be at the local or the state level. The national destiny gives people a lot of pause, and before they introduce some third party or independent, it's going to take a while with a lot of successes at the state level. That's what I would see. In California, when I was governor, about 4 or 5% of the people did not identify with the two major parties. Now it's up to 20% and continues to rise. So there is a decomposition of the stranglehold of the two-party system, but it's still going to be a while before that erosion will impact, I think, the national level.
David Schuster just reported there on our program that 40% of the country now sees itself as untangled by either political party. I have to say I fit in that category these days. Is this where we're headed, Professor?
I think
more people saying, I think I'll vote for Bush because I like him more. Gore seems like a stiff, even though I like his politics. I think I'm going to vote next time for somebody more. Oh, maybe I go back and vote for Kerry next time. I mean, are people going to vote like that?
There's a word for this in political analysis. It's called de-alignment. And rather than aligning where either the Republicans or Democrats have become dominant, like the Democrats in the 30s or the Republicans in the 20s, there's been a de-alignment of the electorate.
Is that where we're headed?
I think we are headed there, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be a third party that's going to be able to take advantage of it, because they have to have a particular program and ideology and a grassroots base.
Tim Penny, what turned the Democrats of your state, Minnesota, off to the old DFL tradition of Hubert Humphrey, Mondale, and before that, Gene McCarthy, and Orville Freeman? What happened to that grand tradition of governance out there?
It's another generation, just as the New Deal generation came and had a big influence on American politics. We had this democratic farmer labor tradition in Minnesota that initially had a big impact, but it's beginning to fade and wane. Minnesota has a lot of new immigrants, a lot of people moving here from other parts of the country, and a lot of young people, second and third generation, that aren't following the party line.
Jerry Brown.
Yeah, well, what's happening is there's a lot more discontent. There is with the current governor, a Democrat. There was with the prior governor, a Republican. And what you have to look for is defections from the two parties. There's a certain brand power in Democrat and Republican. If somebody has the name recognition, the celebrityness, the recognition because they were in one of the two parties at a prominent level, they can move toward an independent course. And if people are angry enough and the two parties don't respond, that's always the safety valve out there. But I will concede these two parties have a way to, they bob and weave, and if they scent where the people are going, they generally go there. And it's only when you get that lag between the party response and what the people want, that an independent or a new party can jump up and grab the power.
I find it interesting, Professor, two of the most idealistic states in terms of clean politics, Minnesota and Maine. No history of sleaze, nothing like the Chicago machine or the Philadelphia machines or New York or L.A. or anything like that. No dirty big city politics in either of those states. They're the ones that have chosen an independent route here. Why is that? Why do you think those clean politics states? Teddy White used to say you could count the votes in Minnesota and they'll always be clean.
Look, the more open the politics, the greater the opportunities for outsiders. And right now, these third-party folks are outsiders. They're mavericks. They can move in those kinds of states as opposed to states with deeply rooted Democratic or Republican tradition and strong Democratic or Republican machines. In a sense, America has the best of all worlds. We've got a stable
Tim Penny, will
two-party
you
system.
destroy the Democratic Party in Minnesota if you win again? If you win and succeed as the governor of Ventura, will that strike the death knell of the Democratic Party in that state?
I don't think it's going to strike the death knell to either party, and indications are that I'm taking a good chunk of the vote from both political parties at this point. But getting to the larger question of why is this happening, it's happening for a combination of reasons. In one instance, it's fiscal irresponsibility on the part of the legislature.
Is the Democratic Party too spendthrift, too left-wing in its fiscal policies?
It's still viewed that way, and especially in these difficult budget times, there's some concern about that, whereas the Republican Party, just like the National Republican Party, has gone out into a right field in terms of opposing any sort of revenues as a way of dealing with our current fiscal problems. So both parties are viewed as a bit too far out of the mainstream. Both of them contrive to create the budget mess we're in. And the other thing gets to the conduct of the two political parties, negative ads and all the things that turn people off.
Thank you, Congressman. Jerry Brown, let me ask you this. It seems like politics is based on interest. The Republican Party's in bed with big business. The Democratic Party's in bed with labor, the teachers, the trial lawyers. How do you separate politicians from interest groups? I don't know how you can do it, can you?
Well, when you have a $50 million campaign in California, you can be sure that business is in both parties. And look, there is very little news left. This is one of the exceptions, your show. But beyond that, you got to buy time. Time costs $1 million a week in California or more, and that's only going to come from the people with the money. So, yeah, interests are there. They've always been there in American history. But when people are feeling that discontent, the inequality gap grows, that people feel the basic issues aren't being attended to, you're going to get an independent. You're going to get that third force.
Jerry Brown,
and
thank
it's
you very
always there
much. My pal,
as the
Jerry
specter.
Brown. I'm being yelled at. Jerry Brown, Tim Penny, good luck in the race. And Alan Lichtman up next, the real deal with whether Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton plans to run for the White House in 2008. You bet she is. Plus, Newsweek's Howard Fineman with the Bush administration's showdown with Saddam Hussein. And Alan Dershowitz coming here on why he says, believe it or not, terrorism works. You're watching Hardball.
How about some chicken noodle soup?
Yeah. Ooh, I'll take the Campbell's Select ready to serve, and you take this.
How come you get the Campbell Select?
Simple. You know how it's made with roasted all-white meat chicken that's now more tender than before?
Uh-huh.
And how Campbell Select beat Progresso in a nationwide taste test?
Yeah.
Now, remember when you said for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse? Well, I'm going with the better.
Uh-huh. That is better.
Campbell Select. Experience the simple pleasure of a great tasting soup.
Come on. Come on.
Early hate pop-ups. Our new pop-up blocker gets rid of nearly all unwanted pop-ups, so they can't get to you.
7.0. 7 point this.
Why wait? Move to Earthlink. Get pop-up blocker and your first 1,000 hours free. Call 1-800-EARTHLINK.
I'm doing it on my way to work.
At work. I'm doing it while I get ready. Today, over 4 million people have done Crest White Strips. These thin, flexible strips make it easy to whiten your teeth almost anytime, anywhere. In just 2 weeks, you'll get a noticeably wider smile that lasts at least 6 months. I'm doing it right now. Crest White Strips. Reveal your whiter smile. Guaranteed.
16 years ago, Honda engineers set out on a dream to create something with unprecedented mobility and feet. One day it may be the eyes, ears, and legs for people in need. Say hello to Osmo.
Priceline.com supercomputer is on. Crunching the numbers, working the angles, calculating, analyzing, processing. See what everyone else is claiming the best deals are for airfare, hotel rooms, and rental cars. Then let the name-your-own-price technology bag you the best price. Yours.
Price accepted.
It's done it again. The Priceline.com supercomputer, a marvel of online travel technology.
I think, therefore I say.
While you were out, life called.
Life called.
And guess what?
You're late.
Because you're trying to be everywhere, do everything.
What you need is some serious money management.
Experts who can create a model portfolio.
Then manage it based on your investment objectives.
The money management pros doing what they do.
You
doing what you do.
Fidelity's Funds Manager Program, a portfolio of mutual funds designed to manage for people like you. Call Fidelity, because you're not just invested, you're personally invested.
Verizon Wireless now gives you more minutes to call your mother, your brother, and all your friends anytime across the country. Now get 1,000 anytime mobile-to-mobile minutes to call any other Verizon Wireless customer coast to coast. Plus, get unlimited nights and weekends on the America's Choice Network for $39.99 monthly access. And get a cool Kia Ceira phone for just $29.99. So now you can call your cousin, your client, and even your contractor anytime. Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
Can you hear me now?
Good.
Next, author, historian, and wife of the Vice President, Lynn Cheney's conversation with Ashley Banfield. On location, next on America's News Channel, MSNBC.
Now for the real deal, our nightly look at hot political stories around the country. Al Gore and George Bush are already squaring off for a rematch. Today, Gore is in Florida, his 5th trip to the Sunshine State since the screwed-up vote count of 2000. Yesterday, Bush was in Iowa, his 8th time as president, after losing there last time by just 1/3 of 1% of the votes. It's September 2002, but the campaign for 2004 has obviously already begun. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton says she's absolutely not running for president, at least not in 2004.
Would you accept the nomination for president or vice president?
No.
Absolutely not.
Are you offering it?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
100%.
110.
Doris?
But no such Sherman-esque statement about 2008.
Will you run in 2008?
I have no plans to run for president.
That's different. No plans is different than no. If 2004 is no, 2008 is no plans.
No plans, no intention. I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Right. Hillary has her career mapped out and doesn't care if the country knows it. It only took a week, but Janet Reno has finally conceded the Democratic nomination for governor of Florida to Bill McBride.
Bill McBride is the Democratic nominee for the governor of the state of Florida, and I congratulate him.
The former Attorney General has vowed to investigate the flaws in Florida's voting system as a private citizen. Howard Fineman is an NBC News political analyst. I couldn't wait to get you on, Howard. I want to know about the politics of this war game, and it is a deadly game between us and Tariq Aziz and Saddam Hussein. What do you make of the proposal to the UN that they will, in fact, let weapons inspectors in unconditionally, I think is the phrase?
Well, over at the White House where I was talking to people today, they're making quite a little of it. They claim they anticipated this. They claim that they can use this as a way to leverage a strong resolution out of the United Nations saying that if the inspectors don't get complete, unfettered, and coercive access to all the sites, that war will be the net result. The problem with their stance is that they're really relying on the United Nations here. George Bush, having made that very forceful speech last week, has in a way got himself in a little bit of a box here. He's relying on somebody that he doesn't know well, but he has no choice but to rely on, and that's Kofi Annan, the head of the United Nations, because it's going to be up to the UN to say that the inspectors aren't getting what they need to get. And it's only if the inspectors say we're not getting the access that Bush will then have the excuse to go to war, no matter how the resolution is worded. The administration is going to try, and I think will probably succeed, in getting a strictly worded resolution, saying if the inspectors are given the runaround, the UN and the United States can do it at once. But that is then going to rely on the inspectors. Now, the administration is trying very hard to influence who the inspectors are, what their regime should be, what kind of arms they have, and so on. But that's all in the future and hasn't been settled yet.
Do you think they're going to try to write a resolution that's so high, that the bar is set so high, that not even UN weapons inspectors can claim success? For example, suppose they say not only must there be no weapons of mass destruction, no chemical, biological, or even rudiments of a nuclear system, but they must have a democratic system. I mean, suppose they put that on the list of demands.
Well, they're going to try. They're going to try. I don't think they'll succeed, but George Bush in his speech put that down as a predicate for what should be in the resolution.
Sure
because
did.
a whole lot of his speech was not just about weapons of mass destruction, but about Saddam Hussein and the way Saddam runs the internal politics of Iraq.
You're confident that the ideologues around the president, led by my friend Paul Wolfowitz, that'll get him in trouble, are not going to succeed with the president and have him demand exactly what he asked for last week at the UN, which is not just getting rid of those weapons of mass destruction, but get rid of the repression.
Well, they will push, but George Bush at this point needs a resolution of some kind to give him the excuse for the war that is almost inevitable to come. And this administration is operating on a timetable of January because that's when because that's when the ground literally is prepared in the winter time.
Let's talk about the November 5th deadline. Will the president be able to force the Democrats to be up or down on this war? I mean, in the vote in the Senate and the House by the election day this year, November 5th.
Tom Daschle, the Democratic leader in the Senate, said today that he wants a vote before November 5th.
But then he did a Daschle.
Yes.
Then he said what he's not clear about is what the wording will be.
No, of course.
Isn't that could the wording be?
Yeah.
But the president has to come back before any kind of hostilities and get approval then.
It could be.
In addition to this resolution.
It could be. I don't think he could try. I don't think it's going to be that because the Democrats, as a party, don't want to stand in opposition to the president on this. But George Bush is in the position where he's got to deal with two people that he doesn't know and doesn't really trust: Kofi Annan and Tom Daschle.
Right. Well, enemy camps. Anyway, these are away games for the president. Thank you, Howard Fineman. Coming up, Alan Dershowitz on why terrorism works. That's his argument. You're watching Hardball.
From the home front to the front lines, for complete, continuing coverage of America's showdown with Saddam, turn to America's fiercely independent news channel, MSNBC. MSNBC's Political Buzz is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual Financial Network.
Their parents all have great jobs. Live in the same neighborhood, same cars, same vacations. So why will some families be paying for college while the rest are praying for scholarships? Some people already know our financial representatives excel at a lot more than life insurance. Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. Are you there yet?
It's been said that less is more. We agree. The 2002 Toyota Camry, the gold standard, turns platinum.
Next, author, historian, and wife of the Vice President, Lynn Cheney's conversation with Ashley Banfield. On location, next on America's News Channel, MSNBC.
What does it mean to be fiercely independent?
I think what makes us unique is we're willing to explore new ground.
Having the courage to follow the story.
I don't rely on scripted material. It's happening. I'm there.
Voicing your opinion.
I have an opinion about a lot of things. And it's nice to be in a place where you don't have to throw a blanket over.
Getting to the truth.
Just tell the people what happened. Better yet, a television show.
Demanding accountability.
When somebody comes on the show and tries to give me their TV commercial, they're not going to get away with it. I'm going to try to make that person answer some tough questions.
America's News Channel, MSNBC. We don't have an agenda, and we don't take orders from anyone. That's what it means to be fiercely independent.
On the overnight satellite picture, lots of clouds across the northern plains. Also plenty of clouds across the mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. Both areas going to see some showers and thunderstorms as we go through the day on Wednesday. As we take a look at that Wednesday AccuWeather forecast, looks like Baltimore will see a dry day with a mix of clouds and sunshine. No travel troubles in Dallas with a full day of sunshine. Things looking nice for Los Angeles as well. Eventually a good deal of sunshine and a dry day in San Francisco. Dry for Seattle as well.
Are you sick of getting kicked off the computer and fed up with missing important phone calls, all because everyone in the house is sharing one phone line? Not anymore. Introducing the Switchboard from Emerson, the revolutionary phone line sharing system. Watch. Just plug in one phone line, then hook in your computer, phone, and fax machine, and you're ready to go.
Hello.
Then surf the web and get quick incoming phone calls while you're online, or receive a quick fax while online. It's like having 3 phone lines without the expense. The switchboard works with any computer, phone, or fax machine. You could spend as much as $35 a month for an additional phone line. In a year, that's over $400. Or you can order the switchboard for just 2 low payments of $19.95. Call right now and receive the compact tech pack free. If you're not completely satisfied, return the switchboard, but keep the tech pack as our gift. Order now.
To order your Emerson switchboard, call 1-800-459-3553 or send check or money order for $39.90 plus shipping to the address on the screen.
Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz is author of a new book, Why Terrorism Works. Well, that's a provocative title, Alan. Let me ask you, what's your main argument here? Why do you think terrorism, which everybody says is bad, seems to be good as a policy?
Well, because a lot of countries don't say it's bad. The French, the German, and the Italians are playing with the terrorists. What they're doing is rewarding terrorism. In my book, Why Terrorism Works, I have a chart in which I show Palestinian terrorism from the year 1968 to the present, blowing up airplanes, hijacking planes, killing American diplomats, murdering Israeli Olympic athletes. And after almost every one of these terrorist acts, the UN, the European countries all say, oh, we respect you, we reward you, we give you observer status. You know, if something works, it's going to continue. The root cause of terrorism is its success.
Well, here's the key question I have for you. How do you meet political demands which are legitimate on the other side without appearing to appease terrorism?
You don't.
How do you meet,
well, you don't give in even if the demands are legitimate.
That is simplistic. I want you to ask the question. You mentioned the French.
Right.
When the Algerians tried to get their independence from France, from metropolitan France, they engaged in terrorism. Were the French wrong to give Algeria its independence?
Well, they were
yes
wrong to give Algeria its independence as a reward for terrorism.
No,
they
that's
were
your
right
linguistics.
to do it. They
you
were right
using
to
linguistics.
do it.
They, in other words, deny them their independence.
Absolutely. If they achieve it by terroristic means, you
then
deny
you reward
it to them,
terrorism by
it.
continuing to give it a motive. Because if you keep Algeria a colony, you continue to give the terrorists a motive and a constituency.
It's much better to give it a motive than to give it legitimacy.
And a constituency.
And even a constituency. It's much better to fight it on principle.
You keep a colony forever in order to undercut the terrorists.
What you do is you tell them in 2 years you get your independence if you stop terrorism. You tell the Palestinians
that ever happened? What country's ever engaged in such a formulation?
It's very simple. South Africa. It's happening now in Northern Ireland.
The ANC never, Mandela never forswore terrorism until the very end. He never did.
In principle,
never did.
He became a statesman. Jerry Adams is becoming a statesman. Arafat is not becoming a statesman, and certainly Osama bin Laden is not becoming a statesman.
Let me just tell you the history of South Africa. Mandela never forswore terrorism as a tool of revolution. He was allowed to leave even though he refused it. That was the issue of his release. He wouldn't forswear it.
But in fact, terrorism abated. In fact, it was never directed.
After the fact.
It never abated. No. It never abated. It never was used against children and women in much the same way. It was counterterrorism.
How did the Rhodesians get rid of the 3% of their population running the country who were white without terrorism? Whites used to call the blacks terrors because they were fighting for their independence. I'm sure the Brits called us the terrorists.
If you take your argument to its law, no, the Brits can't call us terrorists. We never murdered an innocent child. We never targeted
our treatment of the Tories
people.
was historic.
Well, it may have been,
the burning of homes, the killing of people, the hanging of people. Yes.
Let's take your argument then. So the implication is then you always give in to terrorism
if
they have a good cause,
to you as
and
the
if
author,
they have a legitimate.
You have submitted a hypothesis which is you never give in to terrorism. And I'm saying, how can you avoid giving in to the legitimate political demands of the constituency of the terrorists? The Palestinians, for example,
okay, let me tell you
Palestinians.
Give me a chance to answer.
No, let me ask you a question because I'm still asking the same question. You say deny the Palestinians a state
until
as long as there's terrorism. You say they, but what about the 90% of the people who are not engaging in terrorism?
Well, no. 82% in a recent poll support terrorism, finance terrorism, help terrorism, harbor terrorism. Compare the Palestinians to the Kurds and the Armenians. The Kurds and the Armenians have a much stronger case for statehood. There are many more of them. They have suffered much more, and they don't use international terrorism, so they get leapfrogged.
So you deny my counter premise that you reward terrorists by denying them their legitimate political ambitions, thereby keeping their constituency red hot for their cause.
You know, that's like saying the same thing is true with the mafia and criminals. You always can promote them if you don't give in to their causes. The answer is, do you engage in principled arguments which work, which say that you don't reward it, or do you just give in and create more and more incentive to terrorists? If your argument prevails, then every group with a grievance, the Kurds and the Armenians suddenly say it worked for the Palestinians, we have a better cause, it'll work for us. That's just
Was it a smart move on the side of the British government, the Northern Irish government, to deny Irish Catholic participation in their governments all those 60 years because there was IRA terrorism?
No, it was
that smart
always,
politics?
let me tell you, it was always wrong to deny them participation, and you have a cycle of cause and effect. You have to break the cycle. You have to say, terrorism is not going to be the cause of recognition. Something else has to be the cause. You have a legitimate cause.
Alan, that's locution.
I don't think so.
That's not a logical argument.
It isn't. Let me tell you, it's an empirical argument. The Basques are now having that done to them by the Spanish. The Basques are being told by the Spanish.
Well, it's a fascinating premise, and I agree with most of it, despite my argument. I'm scared that you're right, Alan. Anyway, the book is called Why Terrorism Works by not a man who supports terrorism. Anyway, join us again tomorrow night at 9 Eastern as we kick off the Hardball College Tour live from the University of Minnesota. What a hot place before thousands of students with Governor Jesse Ventura. But right now it's time for Ashley Banfield, who's on location. Ashley?